Yeah, so what we learned is related to the Sustainable Development Goals. Those were introduced by the United Nations in 2015, and there's a total of 17 of them, as you can see on this slide. And the goals address issues that deal with sustainability, and they are interrelated. And they relate to the fields of human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption. And businesses that participate in the United Nations Global Compact are expected to report on their progress in these areas. But as we learned, some of these goals are addressed more rarely than others. And we did a data collection, and we looked at 1,674 reports in the Swedish United Nations Global Compact from 2004 to 2020. And for our analysis of the SDGs, we looked at reports starting in 2016, because this is when organizations started first reporting on these goals, and we looked up until 2019. And what we found is this order. And as you can see, there are some goals which are reported on quite frequently. Those are gender equality, responsible consumption and production, climate action, and decent work and economic growth. But on the other side, on this side here, we have goals that are reported on quite infrequently, and those are no poverty, zero hunger, and life below water. And we see that there is a clear hierarchy of SDG reporting. And what we want to do is understand why some of these SDGs are forgotten, as we called it.
So as Julius said, we're interested in understanding why certain SDGs are reported on more often than others. And in looking at a lot of the literature on reporting, as well as a series of interviews we're doing with different people involved in kind of sustainability reporting, we've been able to kind of look at a range of factors that contribute to sustainability reporting practices. And we've attempted to put them into three key areas: rhetorical, institutional, and cultural. So rhetorical is when an organization aligns reporting practices with audience and stakeholder needs and desires. So an example of this is what's called a materiality matrix, which visually kind of graphs stakeholder wants or desires against organizational priorities. And what happens is certain SDGs wind up rising to the top, and those are the ones that get prioritized and reported on. And this is actually quite a common practice in reporting. The second is institutional. And this is when organizations try to align their reporting with larger UN practices and priorities. So we've seen, for example, an increase in the number of reports focusing on gender equity, and that's not just in Sweden, but more globally. And the UN has actually surmised that it's their He for She campaign that has kind of prioritized gender equity, and that is part of the reason we're seeing that increase. And so finally, we have cultural. And so this is when organizations align reports with state regulations, traditions, and cultural practices. An example of this would be Denmark's 2030 panel, which just released a report that's called Our Goals. And what they've done is try to align SDGs with Danish practices and priorities. Because Denmark has actually consistently ranked low in the number of SDGs that they report on. But in a country like Denmark, where poverty, hunger, and gender equity are not necessarily the day-to-day challenges, they've been focusing elsewhere. And so this report is an attempt to realign and reprioritize all SDGs so that more companies can actually report on all 17. So by way of closing, we understand, of course, that there are a variety of factors that contribute to kind of the complexities of reporting, time and money being two kind of top of mind examples. But in understanding kind of these rhetorical, institutional, and cultural contributions, we can better contextualize these reports. And so although the top SDGs in Sweden are gender equity, responsible consumption and production, and climate action, in other countries, the top SDGs are notably different. And our hope is to learn how to get organizations to report on all SDGs, not just those they want to prioritize, so that we don't continue to have this problem of the forgotten SDGs.